Starting a paper but not writing anything on it. Yep. Um, boy, essays are the tough ones, right? Like, you know, there's so many steps to it. There's the source gathering, citations, planning it, typing it out, obviously, going paragraph by paragraph by paragraph. And then you think the worst is when you're writing an essay and you're like, I guess I'm not really making the point that I want to make, or I actually agree with the other side, or you realize, the essay's not really answering what the assignment said to answer. Then you have to go through rewrites, and yeah, it's a very stressful process to start, which can make people procrastinate on it. Absolutely. So for me, in my most recent form of procrastination, this is computer science specific, so some of this might not, make sense at first. I apply for an internship and I get what's called a pre-screening coding assessment. If you're in CS, you know about this. If you're not, if they want to move forward with you, they will basically send you a take-home exam that you have to do and basically get 100 on to move forward, which is obviously stressful. Okay. So then I say that I'll study for it and take it when I'm ready. I don't study for it because I want to do class assignments. I'm like, well, the coding assessment really isn't that like important. I don't take the assessment. I don't move forward. I don't get an internship. So in what way was this procrastination? I put off studying for my coding assessment, right? That was something I said was important. I said, like, I want to do this. But I decided, I have other stuff to do. I guess it's not that important. I put it off. It was intentional. I knew that I should get ready for it. I knew that I should study for it. And I knew that that would help me, but I didn't because I wanted to do class assignments instead, right? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let me clarify. To determine like which things are and are not important. And we'll go over some strategies to do that later on. But, it is also an important thing. It should have been done since an internship is important. It would be important for your career. It's an important job. It's good for the resume, right? So I put it off. I intentionally put it off, and I intentionally put off something that should have been done. So why do we procrastinate? This meme is a little outdated, but typically nobody really wants to procrastinate, and yet people do it. So why do you guys think that is? What, like, from your perspective, have you used as a reason to procrastinate in the past? I'll just give you a minute. A certain task can feel too much for me. Absolutely. Again, like starting an essay, there are so many steps. Starting like a big project, there are a ton of steps. If like, unfortunately, the world can be unkind in that, let's say for one reason or another, valid or otherwise, you like don't go to class for a week or you've fallen behind on course content. Exam time comes around, all of a sudden you have like a week, maybe a few days to catch up on all that content. And that feels like a lot. Now, of course, it's very easy to say, dang, like I should have just kept up and studied. But, like what if, you're going through a personal issue? What if you were in the hospital? What if, you were behind on like all of your other classes and you thought, well, these things are important. You had another, project in another class, you know? So yeah, lots of tasks, for whether it's like because you procrastinated on other things or it was out of your control can feel like monumental. Anything else? Okay. So why do we procrastinate? We have here the cycle of procrastination. All right. So this is pretty much like, you know, point out where you are in the cycle kind of thing, right? So let's start with thoughts or reminders of an upcoming task or deadline. Okay, let's stick with the essay. You have an essay coming up. You think about this essay. You think, This essay's due in 3 weeks. Negative emotional response. You're like, oh man, there's like so many parts to this essay. I have to gather the sources, I have to plan it, I have to, do X, Y, and Z. There's a lot going on. Like maybe you're stressed about other classes already, you're stressed about your personal life. You're like, it's too much to think about, right? You then go through attempted emotional repair. Obviously, you're feeling stressed. And as we advise, when you're stressed, we try to talk about stress management. Now, when you're done with something, or, when you like just really need a break, you know, it is okay to do something, fun or relaxing. It's okay to treat yourself. It's okay, to go golfing if that's your thing. But it's when it's every time in response to a negative emotional response, 3 weeks in advance, 2 weeks in advance, a week in advance, to the stress of this, and you decide, okay, I got to go golfing. I'm too stressed about this. I got to go golfing. I can't think about my essay. I got to go golfing. It's going to cause problems because you're delaying, right? You're seeking emotional repair without actually solving the root of the issue. And then when you're done golfing, guess what? You're going to think about your essay again. You're going to get stressed. You're going to say, I got to go golfing. So, it's a very vicious cycle. And especially when you have outside factors compounding with your essay, it's very difficult to break out of. So why are we talking about this? It's because, once again, no one sits there and thinks like, I'm going to procrastinate because I'm an evil person and I'm bad. It's, it's a stress reaction. It's a way that you are attempting to deal with the stress in your life. And that's, it's again, not uncommon. Everybody procrastinates. So you're not evil for it. You might be evil for other reasons, but not because you procrastinate. So other like factors in causing you to procrastinate, again, physical, lack of sleep, lack of food, lack of healthcare, right? We've talked about the reasons why your physical health affects your emotional health and your mental health. Please do not let your physical health stack on top of the problems, going on in your mental health. Don't let, you have to do your absolute best to, you can set reminders for when to eat. You can meal prep. If you have to, get takeout one day, that's okay. Like just do what you have to do to, to eat, to sleep. And ultimately, if it comes down to it and it's between your health and an essay or an assignment, your health is, of course, the priority. So, if you're like, man, this essay isn't like quite what I wanted, I put my heart and soul into it, and, I'm just like, I'm done. And it's between, you staying up another 3 hours into the dead of night and cramming it, or you, going to bed and resting and taking care of your health. You should probably take care of your health. External things, if you like to play video games, a new game comes out and you're really excited to play it, it's okay to be excited to play it. It's just, you have to set yourself boundaries with it. I'm going to play for 1 hour and you have to stick to it. Sometimes, personal issues, whether it's relationship, friends, family, things that are outside the context of school completely, obviously can affect your stress tolerance, which makes it harder to deal with the things in your academic life too. So essentially anything that may contribute to stress or which takes time in your schedule can add to the procrastination cycle. So what are the consequences of procrastination other than needing to come to my presentation? Excuse me. What happens when you procrastinate on, school assignment? Great, loss of time. It's like it's time debt, you know. You feel like regret, absolutely. So let's go through both of those. Loss of time. It's time debt. So you think like, oh man, I never have any time to play my favorite game, Wizard 101. I just want to play Wizard 101. That's all I want to do. I know I have an essay coming up, but I just want to, let me take time out from the future that I could have used to play Wizard 101 and use it right now. Right? You play it, procrastination cycle. You think about your essay, you get stressed, you want to avoid it, you want, to do something fun and relaxing. You grab your time from the future, use it for Wizard 101. And eventually you just feel like you don't have time for anything because it gets to a point when you like cannot avoid your essay. You have to do it. So then you're cramming your essay. Then you think, oh man, like I still have to go to classes. I still have chores to do. I have, this other assignment to do. Why don't I have any time? And it's because you've grabbed it from the future and used it to avoid dealing with the stress in the present. Regret, absolutely. You guys know when like you're in an English class or just any class and you procrastinate on everything, so you kind of just do the bare minimum to get by. And at the end, you're like, let me actually read the book. Let me actually check out the content. And you enjoy it. It's fun. You like the book, you like the content, and you're like, dang, I really wish I'd paid attention. That sucks. It's a terrible feeling. And you can avoid it by trying to actively participate in the class, by keeping up with the content and avoiding the procrastination cycle with it. So, other consequences, obviously, I had the one that I was, I guess, expecting. You guys' answers were, great. The like obvious one is decreased performance. When you procrastinate, in an academic context, less time spent on the assignment or on studying, can you believe it? Correlates with decreased performance. If you try to cram overnight, it's not going to help as much as if you had studied for one day the week before, like one day each day the week before. Less time on classes results in increases in stress about performance, which, guess what? Less time, more stress contributes to the procrastination cycle. Shocker, right? Once again, like you said, less time for everything. It's eternal time debt. You will always feel like you are behind on everything because you are constantly trying to cope with the stress part of the procrastination cycle. Your physical health will decline or could decline. I would hope that it wouldn't, but a lot of times it does in accordance with stress and procrastination. So, um, you know, if you're like, dang, I really got to cram for this essay or this exam, I'm not going to go to the gym this week. Go to the gym for a week, you get cooped up, you get more stressed out. And your mental health, as we have discussed, will decline. Extra stress can lead to physical consequences. Your body affects your mental health can affect your body. You get stressed, you get migraines, you get, stomach ulcers. There's all sorts of negative consequences to, bearing with that kind of stress. Obviously, other factors of your mental health will decline. You might feel inadequate. And once again, you might feel regret just because, like, dang, maybe I could have done a much better job on this. Maybe I could have enjoyed the course content. And, maybe you feel like shame for not doing as well as you could have done. This term kind of gets thrown out a lot, or it used to. I don't know if it still does. Gifted kid burnout syndrome. You come out of high school feeling like you can do everything like at the drop of a hat and you're really good at it. You come out without study skills. You come out without time management skills. You procrastinate your assignments because you think they're going to be easier than they are. And then they're not, and they stress you out. And that cycle repeats and you get burnout. So, how do we defeat our urge to procrastinate? And we cannot beat it up. It is mental, it is cerebral. So I apologize, but there is no physical violence involved. And I'll give you guys a minute to type that out. Of course, I guess if you're attending this, this is probably what you want to hear. But great, break up the task into smaller steps. So, the essay example, again, I hope you're not getting tired of it. It's very daunting to think of an entire essay, an entire, fact check, peer reviewed, 10 sources essay. But some of the important things are numbers and times. So how many pages are you going to do a day? How many sources are you going to get a day? Um, how many days is it going to take you to complete X task? How many days do you want to allot yourself for X task? How many days in advance do you want to do it? So finding a way to incorporate like numbers, at least for me, is an extremely helpful tip. And you do that by breaking it into, 5 smaller tasks, which each have, X number of pages, X number of sources. Setting a routine, absolutely. If you do the same thing, each day, every day, it's going to be a lot more rhythmic. It's going to be a routine, obviously, as opposed to, one night getting the urge to study, cramming for 12 hours and then not doing it again for a month. So little bits every day are scientifically known to help more than like one big chunk right at the deadline. Genuinely, if you study for like a half hour every day, 2 weeks prior to the exam, that will be much more helpful than cramming for 12 hours, the day before. Great answers, guys. So I broke this up myself into smaller tasks. So we're going to go through sort of the subsets one by one. So motivation. I think when you get into college, you sort of lose track of why you're there. And that's coming from someone who has been here for 5 years. I have 1 year left. And, you get to a point where you're like, all you can think about are the grades, the exams, the projects, and you think, why am I even doing this? So, you have to refresh your memory sometimes. Why are you in college? What is it that you hope to get out of being here? Why are you in your major? What like made you passionate about it or made you want to pursue it? You have to remind yourself what it is that you want out of this. And you use that information to mentally reframe your goals. So if all you're thinking about is, dang, I got to do this essay so I don't fail this class, right? That might stress you out and the stress might cause you to work on it, but that's not necessarily being motivated to do it. Being motivated to do it is rephrasing it as, I want to learn about this thing so that, I can be a crocodile hunter. If you're in Croc 3504, then, you have to think of the exams as your path toward being a crocodile hunter. In a more realistic situation, if you're a poli-sci major and you want to be a lawyer, you might be wondering, why do I have to take this class on, I don't know, what do poli-sci majors do? Like poll analysis? I don't know. I don't know what you guys do. I don't know if any of you are poli-sci majors, but whatever it is that they do, right? You have to rephrase it as, I'm doing this because I want to get this grade for law school, or because this is a step on my path to law school, or here's how I can apply this information later on. Like I'll have a background in statistics. That's what I can get out of this. If I want to go into an internship at a political think tank and go from there, then that's what you have to think about rather than just thinking about the grade and just thinking about passing and failing. I had an anecdote, a personal anecdote for this. Right. I have to remember my own life real quick. So when I first started college, right, as a computer engineering major, I kind of did it for the money. Right? Sue me. That's a very common thing to do. There's no reason to feel any shame for it. But over the years, I started to think, why am I here? Is it really is that all I'm gonna, how do I felt like that wasn't proper motivation anymore to think, well, I guess I could get some money out. And so I tried to reframe my goals and I thought, well, what is it in this major or related to this major that I can do or that I would want to do? And eventually I decided, I actually kind of want to work in video games. That would be fun. I could go to work and enjoy myself doing that. So, I added a major, changed some of my classes around, and now, I feel motivated because I can phrase all of my goals as I'm pursuing this path. Therefore, some of the drudgery, some of the stress is important for that reason. And that's what ultimately motivated me as I went on. So now, in the silence of your own homes, you can applaud my anecdote. Thank you very much. Strategies. So here we're going to talk about some, time management strategies here. Pomodoro, if you've heard of it and you're not using it, then come on, wake up, sheeple. If you haven't heard of it, then it is my favorite method. This is the one that probably saved my attention span the most. I went from brain rot to brain thought, THOUGHT, to clarify. So it's basically you work in segments of 25 and 5. So 25 minutes, you're actively focused, right? No matter who texts you, right? I guess if you're waiting for like a really, really important text, that's like a different thing, but no checking your texts. Phone is away, lock it up if you have to. You're just focusing on the one thing that you're focusing on, right? So your essay, you are just doing your essay, 25 minutes. No YouTube, no like checking the news, no checking your phone, nothing. And after 25 minutes, you get 5 minutes to do whatever you want. Okay, that doesn't include bathroom breaks. If you need a bathroom break, just pause the time. 5 minutes, you get to check Instagram, look at TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Reels, whatever it is that Snapchat has, just whatever you want. And then back to it. 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of a break. 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break. So you can kind of slowly work back your concentration and your attention span. If you sit down and you feel like, whenever you try to work, I can't focus, I can't do it. This is the best, in my opinion, the best strategy to deal with that because you are going to progressively build back your focus. It's much more realistic than like a 12-hour study grind. You are going to get distracted after 12 hours. You're going to be tired. You're going to get hungry. Especially if it's the day before, it's not going to work. Once again, it's been proven less time over a longer period is much better than this massive chunk of time right before an exam. Less burnout as well. Once again, a 12-hour study grind, you're going to get burnt out. Doing this consistently will make you, feel like you're making more progress. And as time goes on and as your concentration improves, you can increase these blocks of time. You could start out even with, 10-5, work for 10 minutes, relax for 5 minutes, get up to 25 and 5, get up to 30 and 10, get up to 50 and 10. As your concentration improves, you can work for a longer period of time, you can focus for a longer period of time, and then you can have a bigger break. This picture here is what we call the Eisenhower matrix. So basically it's split up by axes of urgent versus not urgent and important versus not important. If it's urgent and important, you have to do it. Do it right then and there. If it's important but not urgent, schedule it out later. Say, well, I've got an essay in, a month, so I should start studying for it. Here's when I'm going to study for it. So, you don't have to do it immediately, but it is still important. Urgent but not important. Obviously, you can't really delegate things unless you have your own little like coterie of minions to do it for you. I do, but I'm assuming you guys don't. So, that category is not as important or relevant to your college career, but you would delegate it. You would have, someone else do it. You would assign it to the proper like level of person. If it's not important and not urgent, ignore it. It's just not important at the moment. If you feel like the essay is an important thing to do, Netflix isn't, binging isn't, hanging out isn't. So, whatever it is that you're thinking of doing, you can plop it into this matrix, see where it falls, and decide what to do from there. We're kind of running low on time, so I'm going to hurry up here. Group study, find a reliable group of similarly motivated people. You might love your friends. You might love to hang out with them. If every time you try to study with them, you guys just gossip all the time, that's fun, but it's not productive. So people from class, people with similar majors, people with similar classes who can help you and keep you accountable. And schedule it so that it's repeatable blocks of study time. You can keep going, keep showing up, and people can continue to hold you accountable and be held accountable. So you kind of just have to experiment with these and other ones to find which ones work the best for you. If you don't live on campus, it might be hard to group study, but Pomodoro is completely doable. If you get, distracted like way too easily working alone, then just Pomodoro might not work, but going out into group study might. Other resources in general, SARC. I'm the graduate assistant for supplemental instruction. I think it's a great resource. Um, they really teach you how, not only the content, but how to learn the content. You do need to show up with like a basic understanding of what's going on in the class for it to be most effective. Show up with your textbook, show up with your notes, show up with your resources, and be ready to work with other students. There's peer tutoring, which also offers like more individualized tutoring sessions. So you can sign up for a one-on-one. ACE Consulting, they help you with time management, career services if you need help like finding a job or knowing if this career field is right for you. And as I already mentioned, CABS. And then self-care. Um, we don't expect you to be robots. You are not an unthinking, unfeeling android. So be sure to plan for breaks. Breaks can increase productivity. That's why Pomodoro method works. 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break. You will be, I found myself at times 3 minutes into a 5 minute break and thinking, okay, I kind of want to go back to work, like I'm ready, which I know sounds crazy, but like it works. Planning out fun activities once you're finished working. Self-care is important, but it might not be urgent. If it's important and urgent, remember, schedule it. So you can schedule out your fun time in advance. Say, okay, guys, talk to your friends. I want to go to Chili's after this exam. This time, this day, let's do it. You'll be able to relax and enjoy yourself more, knowing that your work is done, that you put in your best effort, and that you really feel like you deserve it. And yeah, just try your best to practice self-care. So we're going to do a real quick activity. I'm sure you're all extremely excited for it. And basically, we have what are called SMART goals. So those are things that are specific. So rather than I will study, it's I will study chapter 6 in the textbook. They're measurable. So you can say, I will study this number of pages per day from chapter 6 in the textbook. They're attainable. You have to make sure to set a realistic number of pages to study. They're relevant. You study that chapter because your test is coming up and it's on that chapter. It's timely. It's great if you have a test on it and you want to study it, but it's best if it's, your next exam. It's upcoming. It's in, 2 weeks. So an example of a SMART goal is I will study 5 pages per day from chapter 6 in the textbook for the next week because it will be on my upcoming test. Okay. So basically, all you're going to do is create your own SMART goal and type it out into the chat. I would appreciate it if you typed it out like in the acronym form. Well, no, you can just type out your final one. I don't want to have to make you retype it each layer down. But think of a stressor you currently face, exam, deadline, test, essay, and create a SMART goal to overcome your stressor and to accomplish your task, and post it in the chat. Yes, thank you. So we have like about 3 minutes left, so I will give you pretty much the 3 minutes, and I will like discuss your goals as you type them out, okay? I would really appreciate, just like one goal from each person. It doesn't have to be the most like, you know, important goal. If your goal is really just to do your laundry, that's okay. Just do your best to apply the SMART acronym to whatever goal it is that you have. We're just about out of time. Sorry for, the kind of rushed last little activity here. There's a lot to cover. Spoke a little too much, my bad. I do see specific. I will complete my literature review for my honors undergrad thesis. Great, measurable. I will read peer-reviewed articles every day and write a summary about it for each. So, like the specific thing that you're going to do. It's one thing to say, I will work on my assignments, but it's specific to say, I will complete my literature review for my honors undergrad thesis. That's great. Um, Measurable and attainable. So I will read one peer-reviewed article every day and write a summary about it. Great. I think that's a completely attainable goal. And I think that it's measurable because you're doing one per day. Um, and yeah, just writing a short summary about it is totally attainable. If you were like, I'm going to write an essay for every single one, and I'm going to contact the author and, have a full conversation with him about it, work as well, but that's a completely attainable goal. Um, we are at time, so I do hope that like the SMART acronym, I think it's very useful to keep track of your goals and to be sure that they are effective ones. If you can't fit your goal into the SMART acronym, then find where it's lacking and adjust it to fit into it because I really think it captures like all of the things you need for an effective goal. So yeah, we are done. This is our like end of presentation evaluation QR code. If anybody needs to know that you've been here, this is what you need to scan. So please scan it and fill it out. Um, my name again has been Dan. If you think the presentation was bad, my name has been Taylor. Yeah, some information for SARC. We're in TCH 117. We also have a website for SI and peer tutoring. If you just look up UCF Supplemental Instruction WordPress or UCF Peer Tutoring WordPress. We support all sorts of STEM classes, from literally every field, chem, bio, computer science, engineering, physics, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you got something out of it, but otherwise we are all done. So thank you for attending. I appreciate it. Yeah, bye all. Thank you.